Welcome to the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright, an exciting thrill ride through the wonderful world of HBCU athletics. Before our trip begins, let's set a few ground rules. First, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Second, hit the like button. Third, please be sure to tell someone else about this show. Now that we've got these things out of the way, it's time for our journey to begin. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your ride.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another fabulous Sunday recap of the Ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright. And I'm pleased to be joined tonight by my very special guest. Please say hello to Ms. Melissa Kim, everybody. Welcome, Melissa.
Hello,
How are you?
thank you. That's quite the intro you have there. Oh my gosh, with the roller coaster, that's cool. Didn't know what's going to happen for a second, but that was neat.
Yeah, I am a roller coaster enthusiast.
Okay.
And you know the roller coaster ride that is HBCU athletics.
Yes, indeed.
It goes in many dips and rises and different turns and different facets. And as you know, we're getting right down to the very end of the football season, which is so crazy because it seems like we just got started.
It always goes by so fast.
Yeah, and before you know it, we'll be talking about who should get drafted. And then, people will be talking about, well, how come our guys in the HBCUs haven't been getting, the same stuff that we talk about every year. But really what this is about this week, this is about just the celebration of football as we get ready for the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta. So I am pleased that you're here to join me tonight. And everybody who's watching and joining in, as you always do, just do what the opening said. Make sure you hit the like button early and often. Also, if you're watching for the first time, make sure you subscribe. And then also make sure you share somebody with this, share the show, so yeah, share it. So hello, Miss Mary. Love to see you again. My boy is always here, rain or shine. Yeah, good evening to you. And yes, good evening to all in HBCU land. So yeah, keep the comments coming. So Melissa, you ready to get into it? Let's talk about this game that happened yesterday. So in Jackson, Mississippi. All right. Unless you've been under a rock, you've already seen what the outcome has been from yesterday, where the Prairie View Panthers went into Jackson into the vet and pulled off a win 23-21, taking their first SWAC football championship since the year 2009. So you see how it was on the day. Cam Peters was really the star of the show in this game. With 294 yards passing, he threw a touchdown, and he also had 100 yards rushing on 24 attempts at that. So, and on the day, Jacobian Morgan, he came out and he tried to play on an injured foot after missing the previous 5 games. Ran for a touchdown, and then that was it. So Jared Lockhart, he came in, he was game. But something that was very, very crazy was, Melissa, I had said in my preview last week, Sunday, I said that Jackson State was a perfect 8-0 on the year when they rushed for in excess of 200 yards. Well, yesterday they were held to a season low of 84 yards rushing. So your thoughts on this game? I'll let you get the first swing at it.
Yeah, look, anytime that the guy that you want to, I feel for Jackson State, right? Because anytime the guy under center that you want to go doesn't get to go, it's always tough, and obviously Prairie View, I mean, kudos to them for the season that they've had and for going into that territory, into Jackson State's territory and winning the way that they did. Like you mentioned, Cam Peters, he was the star of the show. He had more rushing yards himself as one guy on the team than the entire Jackson State offense. I think that right there is pretty much all you need to know about the game in terms of how it went. And I know that Jackson State had a last second with late in the game for about 4 minutes and change left. They had a chance, but when you can't convert on turnovers and take advantage of the opportunities that are given to you, I think it makes it pretty tough to win a game. But I mean, credit to Jackson State for the season that they had. I am friends with a couple of Jackson State alums who were worried about this game. They were not like, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk just because of the season that Prairie View has had. And also what Tremaine Jackson what he's done with the programs that he has been the head coach of. And obviously Prairie View is not an exception to that at all. But I think that, when Prairie View, when they win the run game, I think that it always bodes pretty well for them.
Yeah. And, also shout out to Josiah Rockwell. He had 4 catches for 96 yards. He exceeded 1,000 yards receiving on the season. So after there was a very long drought of 1,000-yard receivers in the SWAC, it's now 2 consecutive years where they've had at least 1,000-yard receiver. And as many of you might remember, last year they had 2 with Javani Gibson, who now plays for Oklahoma. He's going to be in the playoff. And then also the guy on the opposite sideline, Nathan Rembert, who transferred from Valley to Jackson State. So the thing about this game for me, I just can't even overstate it as I go to the side by side. I had said also on last Sunday, I said that one of the keys that Prairie View needed to do, they needed to hit their marks, which was they needed to have at least 200 yards passing. I said that it would be beneficial if they got at least 200 yards rushing, but I said they needed to exceed 400 yards of offense. Well, you see that top number, they exceeded 400 yards of offense. And the reason why I said that was so key is when you look at all the trends of their games, they were so much more successful and so much more effective when they were able to get their offense going, because you saw that defense. That defense was flying around. They were making plays. Man, shout out to Daryl Sterling, man. Number 25. Man, dude had an interception, had a couple hard hits. They were causing a lot of confusion for one Jared Lockhart. And also, before I turn it back to you so you can go over these trends here, you look at that turnover that Jackson State had. That was another part of the game that was so key, because it was 13-7 getting ready to head into the locker room. And I'm thinking as I'm watching it, and I'm sure everybody else was watching it as well, just run the ball, let's just run the clock out, go to the half. And Lockhart throws that pass, and Starling is there to pick it off, and there it is. And they get a field goal, and ultimately, you lose the game by 2. So just your thoughts on the side-by-sides here.
The thing that stands out to me, I think, the most is third down, right? I think Prairie View won that battle hands down. I mean, that's pretty solid as opposed to 50% for Jackson State. A little bit more on third down for Prairie View, but then also the turnovers, right? Because anytime I would normally say it would have gone the other way, right? But the fact that Jackson State wasn't able to capitalize a lot of times, especially that last one, that fourth quarter one, they weren't able to capitalize on that turnover. I think that obviously played a part in the game. And also, last thing too, time of possession. That's something we haven't talked about yet. Jackson State defense, by the time you get to the fourth quarter late in the game, when they say defense wins championships, right? They don't say that for no reason. But the fact that they were on the field a lot in that game. So by the time you get to the fourth quarter, your defense is a little gassed, maybe a little bit more than the other side. That's a whole 17 minutes there that Prairie View had the ball more than Jackson State. That means their offense was flying around. That means that Prairie View's defense was catching their breath a little bit more, getting a little bit of, rest, a little less cardio than the other side. So I think that too, that played a huge part in the very end.
Yeah. And, so the thing here, I know that it's been a lot of, been a lot of chatter, obviously. But listen, I want to say this for Jackson State. They came into this thing. They've won 4 of the last 5 East championships. They were looking to try to go back to back here. They've been on a bit of a heater here with their program, and this right here, this is, obviously it's a disappointment for them because they had such high hopes coming off of last season, and also they had a lot of returning talent. Um, but it just goes to show you, as I've said before many times on this show, is anybody can be beaten any given day. Doesn't matter, because once you get in a situation like this, Prairie View definitely was not intimidated the least bit. They came right in from the opening kickoff and took the fight right to Jackson State. I mean, quite honestly, this game, without those turnovers and some of the other things that went on, Prairie View could have really won this game comfortably. But for Jackson State, listen, I know that there's a whole lot of disappointment down there, and as well it should. But the run that you guys are on, I kind of expect that you guys will be right back in the money again next year.
Yeah,
but
no doubt.
it is what it is. And for Prairie View, man, Tremaine Jackson, wow. First year, comes in, takes this program to a height that it's never been before, which is the Celebration Bowl. Of course, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. All right. One other thing that I'll touch on real quick here. Albany State. Oh my gosh, man. They were up 21-3 after the first quarter at home against Newberry, and then Newberry comes roaring back, outscoring them 28-3 on to win this game 31-24 and send the Golden Rams home for the winter. I was really, really expecting and hoping that Albany State could at least get one more, because I looked at the way the bracket was. Newberry, their next opponent is going to be Ferris State. Good luck with that, Newberry, because Ferris State are the kings of
They
D2. And then also, there's Harding is over there. They've been tearing it up. So I just was hoping that Albany State would get at least one more here. And shout out to them, though, regardless. You go 12-2, you win the SIAC championship. You beat Benedict College 3 times in the process. That's real crazy, too. But there's a lot that they can really hang their hats on for Albany State. The fact that they got in the playoffs where they hadn't been, really successful really in their history, but to make inroads like this and come to the doorstep of at least getting to the Final Four, shout out to them. So, yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there. All right. So everybody, make sure you hit the like button, and me and Melissa will be back with you in just a little bit. But one thing I've got for you all is there's an interview that I had on this past week with the commissioner of the MEAC conference, and I want to share that with you right now. And me and Melissa will be right back with you, and we'll be having a celebration preview. But for right now, you guys enjoy this interview that we have with Commissioner Stills. So I am pleased to be joined by, since the Commissioner Stills.
Well, thanks for pulling over and letting me for the ride.
This is a smooth ride, and this will be a very smooth ride for you. So, again, thanks. And I just first off want to start off with just some congratulations in order, because you were honored as 25 Nike Executive of the Year. So first off, thank you for that. And just kind of talk about just your impact on your drive for advancing opportunities for women and minorities.
Thank you very much for that. I that was like a huge honor, being at the conference for 23 years. And, just looking at my career, and it's very humbling experience, and I just love doing what I do to be able to provide opportunities for, the younger folk, I always say, and for particularly, for minorities, women, I've been a part of or have ran the Women in Athletics Professional Development Workshop, and just the new or the individuals that we have in the office. I have Hispanic, white diversity, that shows the type of diversity that is at our institutions. We have that in our staff as well. I'll be able to use my platform as a way to advance our young folk.
That is excellent. That is excellent. And, it's one of the things that I remember when you and I, when we first met last year at the Celebration Bowl, when we were, we were talking about, just your tenure and things like that. That was one of the first things you brought up, was just about, hey, this is not just a platform for me, but it's more a platform for we. So
Yes.
that is outstanding. And so with this award, how do you see this award just more into the future, in relation to, just with the MEAC itself? Just like the leadership, just continuing to transition its way, not just from the sporting realm, but also over to the academic realm as well?
Oh, yeah. So, for instance, during the basketball tournament, we have a student leader symposium, and it's not for just student athletes; it's for those student leaders on campus, the SGA individuals. We want to reach the campus, and so our involvement has always reached across the campus. We meet with the alumni directors, we meet with the admissions directors, because we want to be able to be that pipeline to our corporate partners, so that they know that if they're looking for a diverse pipeline of individuals into corporate America, that they can come through HBCUs to do that. So I think that's the most important part of what we do as a conference, is to be able to not always be centric in the athletic side, because athletic reaches everywhere. It's the front porch to the university. And so we have to pay attention to not only our student athlete focus, but the whole institutions as a whole.
That's excellent. And so now moving into, as I said before, you took over in 2022, and now we're closing this year here, 2025. So it brings me to my next point. We talked about when you took over, you said you had a 5-year strategic and long range plan. So where is that plan, and where is it year to date, and then where is it headed to as you get, getting closer to 2027 now?
Yeah. So actually, the great thing about it is we've been very intentional about looking at the plan as we plan for the year. And then we report out to the membership each year about where we are as we progress. Because it's not a conference office plan, it's a MEAC conference as a whole inclusive plan with one shared vision. We had our athletic directors, students, coaches, other administrators to put this plan together as to how we're going to move together to move forward. And so we've definitely made strides when we look at visibility, the things that we've been able to do with that, mental health, as we look to see how we're going to expand as a conference, but how does the foundation look? Are we looking at how we celebrate our students with the importance of academics? We have our academic performance rate award that's financially backed. Same thing with our graduation success rate, financially backed. And so we're making strides. There's things that we need to tweak, just because the college landscape has changed. And so those are things that we are talking about or getting ready to talk about during our midwinter meetings, of what do we need to look at, that we need to tweak as we move forward at the conference. And then pretty soon it's going to be time to get into a new strategic plan, but it may be just looking at what we have now and just altering it a little bit. But what I'm really, really pleased about is that we're being very intentional and not, have a strategic plan and just put it on the shelf, say we did
Right.
it, but be able to really look at, are we meeting those goals, and what we need the membership to help us meet those goals as well.
All right. And so now, as we get ready for Celebration Bowl next week, you guys just recently just recrowned South Carolina State as the champion of football again. And, and it was a really wonderful season. I've had a really, really good time covering this league. You got some really good coaches in this league, and also some really good players. So just kind of talk about the season as a whole, according to the commissioner's view.
It's been an awesome season. You could not have imagined, when we started at the media day and you have all the predictions of what you thought the season was going to look like and how it ended up. I think the consistent piece was South Carolina State, a repeat of a season. See State who to be at the bottom, and what happened came down to South Carolina State and this Delaware State who hasn't been anywhere above the halfway mark. And so that just really speaks to the competitiveness of our conference, and like you said, great coaches that we have, with Central consistently, Howard Moore. It doesn't matter who you think is going to win, because any team can knock it off. And so it really makes it really exciting, because it got all the way to the end,
Right.
the last game, to determine who is going to the bowl. So I thought it was an amazing season and a growth, and I can see what it's going to be like next year, even more excitement.
Yeah. And so with that, your league, you also brought in two very prominent head coaches, Michael Vick and also Deshaun Jackson. So from your view, what did their involvement in the league, what did it do for year one? Did it lead to, would you see an uptick of media coverage? Did you see, just what were the impacts for those two guys?
Yeah, so with Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson, it definitely brought in more visibility to the conference, which is awesome. More eyes on the conference, the institutions themselves, and HBCU. So it really got the visibility up there. I think the opportunity that they have here in the MEAC conference, which is just another thing about why HBCUs are so great, is because we give you these no opportunities. So what a better way for them to train and football and start what they've done in student athletes that come to HBCUs has been immense. And so I look forward for them to continue doing what they're doing, and changing those students' lives, and just helping to more for their institutions.
That's awesome. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't ask this. So we talked media coverage and media. And I know that I've watched all the games, and it's been a really, really good thing. And also, you've had your games like the South Carolina State game get televised on Friday. Also, Delaware State and Norfolk State being televised on a Thursday. But also covered the graduate from a SWAC school, and they recently launched SWAC TV. Is this something that the MEAC would be open to in the future, or is it something that's already kind of in? I mean, you could say whatever you want on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we've already had, we've had the MEAC digital network. So we've already been working in that realm. We've had the countdown to kickoff show that we've had. So we've already kind of been working in that in the background. I do see us in the future of developing or expanding the MEAC digital network. And as we look at our partnership with ESPN and how we can bring, again, more visibility, not only to our sports, but more importantly for our Olympic sports who don't get that. We want to be able to put our product out there at a paywall so that our fans, the student athletes, fans, our international students have access to see their athletes for the future for us, probably sooner than later. But as we continue, you will still continue to see our product out there on ESPN. They've been a great partner of ours. And, you wouldn't think, okay, a game on a Friday night, what great competitive games they were. And the turnout was amazing. And so that's things that we need to look at as we move forward on how our multimedia rights will look as we, go into the future.
All right. Now, in the final minute here, Celebration Bowl next week. Obviously, South Carolina State is your champion, and they're your representative. We know what it was last year when they went. What would this mean for the MEAC to get back in the win column after 2 SWAC victories in this thing?
I know it's like a 6-3 thing, and I really want to be cocky, and but it's these teams are so competitive, so really good. So it's a victory for HBCUs. It doesn't matter who goes in and does that. And Charles McClellan does a great job in leading the SWAC. And so, but it would be awesome, epic if we could bring you back on to the dominance that we've had in the MEAC SWAC Challenge and with the Celebration Bowl on the 10th anniversary, where we were the first to win with A&T, and then if we that's all I can say. But I'm happy with it.
Well, hey, we're definitely gonna see, and I'm looking forward to being back down. I'll be doing the biz last year, so I'm just so appreciative. Thank you for taking time to sit down with me, and congrats again on all the success, and best of luck to South Carolina State in the Celebration Bowl, and then everything that the MEAC conference is and will be in the years to come. So thank you.
Right. Thank you, and I will see you next week.
And so that was my interview with MEAC Commissioner Sonja Stills. Once again, special thanks and special shout out to the commissioner for spending time with me. And Melissa, as someone who covers Howard like you do, I know you are so very familiar with everything, a lot of things that she was saying in terms of, media rights. Obviously, you call the home games for Howard on ESPN Plus. But what can you say though about just the MEAC footprint and things of that nature? Just add a few things before we get into the preview here.
No, I think that having that partnership obviously is a great platform for the MEAC, and obviously for HBCU sports overall. They do have, on occasion, the MEAC does make its occasional appearance on the, like on the Thursday night games with Tiffany Green and Jay Walker. But I think it's important to have that platform. I know the world is changing. Literally, the media world, as we speak, is changing quite a bit. I also work for the CBS station here in Washington, D.C., as well as I'm a digital host at Bleacher Report. And I can tell you that, everything is changing so fast. Like in local sports TV, I don't know if my job is going to exist in 2 or 3 years, So I think that being ahead and to have that digital network is really important because everything is moving. So many things, I should say, are moving to streaming. And literally, nobody waits around for highlights on the 11 o'clock news anymore. We're all watching it on our phones minutes or even live as they're happening. So I think all those deals with, as the commissioner mentioned, with ESPN and having it on the Plus on the app, so you can literally watch it from anywhere in the world, as well as like Netflix, Amazon Prime, everyone's picking up live sports now. So the world is changing rapidly as we speak. So I think it's really important that HBCU kind of stays ahead of that and is on the digital platform as well. So I definitely agree with a lot of things that she's saying. But people like you, like everyone that's putting things out on social media, I think it's really, really important, especially to elevate the platform of HBCU sports. I feel like it, honestly, as it is, I feel like the world doesn't get enough of it already. You know what I mean? So I think that it's really important that individuals that, have a vested interest really put things out there. So that was just my little rant on it. Just because I think that this is my second year covering Howard with the network, and it's been such a cool experience for me, someone who who did not go to HBCU. I went, and this was kind of my first experience with it. I worked in Alabama for some time and had the pleasure of going to a couple of Magic City Classics as well. So I think it's a cool, neat experience. And the HBCU world has been so gracious and opening their arms and really kind of educating me and inviting me to look into the culture and all that stuff. So it's been really, really cool. So I think the more people that can see what it's all about, the better it'll be.
Yeah, well, that's some awesome stuff. And, so with what we're getting ready to get into right now, you're going to put that knowledge to use. Again, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We have the Celebration Bowl preview for you. You know what it is. You got the South Carolina State Bulldogs. They successfully defended their title from last year, coming back in with an unblemished MEAC record. And they're taking on the Prairie View Panthers. 10-3 on the year, 7-1 in SWAC play, with that big victory that they got yesterday there at Jackson to win their first SWAC title since 2009. It's going down this Saturday down there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I will be there. I will be there on Friday as well, doing Media Row, doing all that good stuff. So looking forward to getting back down there. I hope everybody that's watching this and others that'll share this, I hope you make your way on down there as well. So, we've got some good things going. So here's a little bit of the history for everybody. My first one was last year. I went when Jackson State won last year to, get their first Celebration Bowl title. But you can see the early years, this thing was dominated by North Carolina A&T.
Very much so. Yep.
And you saw really my first memory of this game from watching it on television. I watched the one in 2016 when they were still playing at the old Georgia Dome there. And I remember North Carolina Central scores a touchdown. The receiver gets so excited, throws the ball up in the air. They get a 15-yard penalty, and then they miss the extra point.
Brutal.
Right. And then the one of the most hardest hitting games was the very next year, the 2017 game with A&T against Grambling. That was probably, I have to say, that was one of the hardest hitting games there ever was. And then you fast forward, you look at 2021, the return after COVID. You remember South Carolina State was 6-5, and they were a huge underdog to Prime and Jackson State. And they came with a very, very strong defensive plan. And they pulled that upset 31-10. And then who can ever forget 2022, the overtime thriller? Travis, Travis, he makes that catch at the end of regulation to send it to overtime. I mean, that was an absolute classic. And then FAMU getting the win over Howard. Obviously, you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Yeah, so overall, MEAC is up 6-3, but as you can see, Melissa, the SWAC has won the last
comeback. No, I know, and I think that what's neat about this is that that they're obviously, like, when you get to this championship game, they're not opponents that you see, regularly. So I think that's always like it's a fun little surprise in a way sometimes, but it's always kind of neat to see how the conferences match up with each other, So that's always what's fun for me to see, because you kind of see the best of each conference, so how they match up against each other. And it kind of gives you like a litmus test as to where the conferences are at. So I think that's the neatest part about a lot of these bowl games, honestly, but especially this one.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's just a little bit of the history, everybody. And this is the 10th edition coming up on Saturday. Cool. 10th edition, man. Awesome. All right. So the coaches. All right. Here's South Carolina State staff. I sat down with half of these guys last year. Coach Chennis Berry in his second season, 4th year overall as a head coach, has yet to lose a conference game in the regular season as a head coach. That is amazing.
That's an incredible feat to have. I mean, he's only in his second year, like you said. I kind of call him, so the only time I really get to talk to any of these coaches, if they're not playing a home game at Howard, or if I haven't talked to them before, is at MEAC Media Day. And I always like Chennis Berry. He's kind of like, I call him like the preacher, like, you know what I mean? Because like when he's up there, he's like every time even if you're just casually talking to him, his voice is, and his just like presence is just so like authoritative and booming, and you're buying what he's selling. You know what I mean? 100%. Like he could tell me that the sky is purple. I'd be like, okay, coach, got it. Cool. Let's go. So he definitely knows how to build culture. And I think that's one of the most important things that you can do as a head coach.
Yeah. And, he goes by that mantra. We're looking to go 1-0 this week, and, so a lot of those family values, you see Jonathan Williams, the OC, he was at Benedict with Chennis Berry. Jordan O'Daffer, I was so enamored with this dude last year. I sat down with him for 15 minutes, man. This guy's full of energy, runs really good schemes, man. That defense has been flying around. Jordan O'Daffer, really, really good dude. He also was at Benedict. Defensive line, Gary Howard, he was also at Benedict. But look at the OG, Mr. David Blanchard. Been in the league longer than any of us. 28 years at South Carolina State. He's been through all the wars at South Carolina State. So holding it down. And he's the chief of staff, too. And then you got a guy I know well, Marcus Lawrence. He came from my school, running that offensive line. And then you see Mike Stiles, defensive back, another guy from Benedict. So you look at this. You got Benedict. And then you got a 28-year guy who's been holding it down in the program. So continuity definitely helps you.
No, without a doubt. And it kind of it tells you what kind of head coach and what kind of belief that Chennis Berry can put into some of these guys that have coached with him. I don't know how often you see this, that he kind of brings these guys with him and they stay with him. I think that is a big telling point of success. When you look at some of these other programs that might not have had that continuity, like, guys leaving for other opportunities, which obviously is a great thing for all these coaches, but they've stuck with him. I think that's a really neat thing to see.
Yeah, I like this comment here. It said David Blanchard said a lot of SCSU players in the NFL. Yeah, because you got Jacoby Durant, you had Darius, or he liked to be called Shaquille Leonard. He was there, had a lot of really, really good dudes. Yeah. Really, really good dudes that come through that program. So Yeah, this is a really good
Standard
staff.
too, yeah.
Yeah, really good staff. So that's South Carolina State. Now flip to the other side. You look at Prairie View. You got head coach Tremaine Jackson in his first year, 10-3 record. He led Valdosta State to the D2 title game last year, so he's got that big experience. You look at offensive coordinator Chris Buckner. He came over from Sam Houston, so he's got a little bit of that D1 experience already on him. Then you look at guys who came from Valdosta. You just see Valdosta all over this thing. Trent Early and Brandon Anderson together, they run the defense. What a defense it is. Of course, we'll get into that in a little bit. Defensive lineman Capono, this guy, man, that defensive line, they did a really fabulous job yesterday. That was one of the things that was a little bit of the Achilles heel of their defense, if you really want to call it that. But they were key to stuffing that run yesterday. And then you see the offensive line in the run game, Bryce Carlston. You know, they ran the ball really, really well all year. And then you see Coach DG, Darren Garrigan, defensive backs, and they have a really good defensive secondary. So, again, continuity, Melissa. Yep. That's the name of the game.
Yep, you believe in these head coaches. And again, that's building culture. You know what I mean? Same thing with Coach Jackson. He's obviously built culture everywhere that he's gone. I'm like so impressed with him in general. You know what I mean? Just what he can do at all these different programs. There are very few coaches that can do that, can have these winning records and have that kind of impact right away in the first couple of years, you know? And I think that we've seen it a lot, I think, at the HBCU level for sure. Because a couple other ones that come to mind, Willie, the one that was at Florida A&M.
Willie Simmons, yeah.
Yes, Willie Simmons, yes. That's at Florida International now. Same thing. He's been at, I think, 9 years, something like that. He's been at 3 different programs and had winning records at all of them. Like, that's impressive, you know? Mm-hmm. So what Coach Jackson has done too, I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit later too, but like what I've seen some of his press conferences, I've seen some of his interviews because I have a friend who covers sports in Houston. And he showed me an interview that he had with Coach Jackson earlier in the season where he told him way back when in the summer that, and I think he said at his press conference too, at SWAC Media Day, that they were going to be in Atlanta. And here we are.
He did.
Yep.
He said it to me. I go back and look at it on my footage from July. He said it. So they're here. All right. So, yeah. Now, here's a little bit of the tail of the tape. We'll do a little bit of this early, and then we got a few more things coming ahead. But here's the tail of the tape. All right. So you look at the offenses. Can't be any more closer.
Nope.
You know, now the difference. Look at the scoring defense. And I'll let you take the wheel. Look through this. What do you see here?
Look, South Carolina State has been pretty dominant in the short time that I've been covering the MEAC in pretty much every facet of the game, every phase of the game. And right away, if you just look at straight numbers comparison wise, obviously scoring defense stands out to me. And pass offense stands out to me as well. And, you know, they might not have as many touchdowns per se in the red zone as Prairie View A&M, but I think their efficiency maybe is a little slightly better. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be cool. I think this is going to be really neat because they are so closely matched. So this is going to be neat, I think, to watch.
Yeah, because when I sat down and I was looking at these numbers, obviously I've had a little bit more time with South Carolina State's numbers because they've been done playing for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And then obviously I just previewed and did a full deep dive and study of Prairie View when I was getting ready for the SWAC championship game. But, you know, these guys, when you look at these numbers, I mean, the numbers it's good to show people what both teams have done over their body of work. Now, South Carolina State's played 12 games and, you know, Prairie View's now played 13 games, which is crazy. On HBCU level, and they played 13 games heading into this. This will be game number 14 for Prairie View. But yeah, like Iz said, pass the offense. Yeah, definitely keep your eyes on that. Because Iz, when I get into my trends a little bit later in this montage here, you'll see why that's important. All right. So yeah, that's a little bit of the tail of the tape, the initials. Now, you know, as everybody who likes to watch me, this is where I like to get into the intangibles. The intangibles is where it's at, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So what do you see here, Melissa?
Ooh, this is good. I always try to, so my big things that I always like look at right away are pretty much all the penalties is a big one that I always look at. I kind of noticed though, when I was looking at the numbers myself a little bit earlier, on the season though, as opposed to their opponents, Prairie View does have quite a few more. So I think that might be an area that that might come back in later on in the game. They're pretty evenly matched in because turnovers is the other thing. Like they're pretty evenly matched in turnovers too, which is crazy. That is wild. Yep. And third down is always like my other thing that I look at too. And they're pretty evenly matched there too. So this is gonna be neat. But yeah, sacks allowed obviously is a big. That is I think sacks allowed and sacks gained. Those are, I think, the two big outliers in terms of where else they are not evenly matched on. You mentioned earlier with Prairie View how important their D line has been. So I think that might be a point of that we need a circle in this game.
Exactly. And, the thing that's really crazy, and he said sacks allowed, interested. Yeah, man. But here's the thing that's really crazy about this, though. South Carolina State, if anybody who's watched their games as much as I've watched them play 10 times, these guys, they throw the ball a lot. They've had games where they've thrown it 40 times. They've thrown it 35 times. They throw it a lot. And, we'll talk about the quarterbacks here in a minute. But, they really, Billy Atkins is really more of a pocket passer. And that is something that kind of gets a little bit into the sacks allowed. Also, the thing I also want to say too is the fact that South Carolina State, they had one returning starter on offense from last year. And that one returner is Roger Smith, who was the MEAC Offensive Lineman of the Year. He was the one guy that they had come back on that offensive line. So it took a while for them to get some continuity and get themselves built up on that offensive line. But of late, they've been better in terms of pass protection. But you look at on the other side of it, though, look how many sacks that they've gotten after the quarterback.
That's a lot. No, but you make a good point too about their quarterback because he has experience. I think that's what the big thing is because he was a quarterback. He's a grad transfer and he played at James Madison, obviously, as we've seen this season, a very successful team. So he came from a successful program. And I think having that experience is so important, even though you might be the new guy on the team, which, the game is changing a lot, obviously, with the transfer portal and NILs and the game overall. I mean, college athletics overall is changing quite a bit. But I think that it takes a lot, regardless of the experience that you have, to come in as the grad transfer quarterback, to lead this team, to be in charge of the offense, to find chemistry and to mesh, the way that the South Carolina State offense has. And you mentioned the O-line too. I mean, that's like five guys playing as one. And to have the success that they have built over the course of the season, if you look at the opponents that they've lost to this year, I mean, they lost to like South Carolina, US South Florida. Yeah, there we go.
There.
I mean, some of the teams that they've lost to, I mean, this is an SEC team. You know what I mean? This is like South Florida almost went to the playoff this year. So I think that they're playing really, really quality football over at South Carolina State. I think that, yeah, exactly right. Blue Jay 3000. You're right on the money there. Took the words out of my mouth. I mean, I think that they're building, Chennis Berry is building something really special and really neat over in Spartanburg. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like this. Well, you mean Atkins will take a sack instead of throwing a foolish interception. Yeah, that's true too. So yeah, those are a little bit of the intangibles. But yeah, I had to do a double take when I looked at their turnovers committed and forced. The same. The distribution is different, but you look at the way that the turnovers committed. That's almost even more even, just the 15. Because you look at the 6 fumbles to 8 fumbles, 7 interceptions to 9 interceptions. It's just wild, right? So, yeah, this is crazy. All right, so we'll keep going. Now, here's the quarterbacks. So we talk about Billy Atkins, 62% completion percentage. Now, mind you, here's the thing about Billy Atkins and Cam Peters. Both guys split time with other quarterbacks during the season. All right, Billy Atkins shared with Ryan Stubblefield for a good portion of the non-conference. And then Cam Peters, he shared time with Tevin Carter. All right, but since conference play has been in effect, these have been the two guys for their respective schools leading the charge. You look at 2,300 yards for both guys, almost 20 touchdowns. Cam Peters, he threw 4 interceptions in one game against Alabama State. Other than that, he's thrown 3 against other competition. And Billy Atkins, 4 interceptions the entire season, right? These are pretty
really
good quarterbacks.
That's really good. Mm-hmm.
Pretty good quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. So I like this. I like the fact, and also the skill set is a little bit different between the two. I said before, Billy Atkins is more of a pocket guy. Now, he has shown you down the stretch the willingness. If it's not there, he will take off and he'll get you some yards. Cam Peters, we let off this show talking about how he ran the ball 24 times yesterday.
That's crazy. It's so interesting to watch. It's going to be interesting to watch just the dichotomy, because you look at Billy Atkins and he is the true old school. He's like the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, the Drew Brees era of quarterbacks. And then you look at Cam Peters and he's Lamar Jackson. He's Jaden Daniels. He's Patrick Mahomes, Yep. That's really going to be really, really neat to watch, just the dichotomy of the two styles of quarterbacks that we've seen evolve over the last 10 years or so. So I'm excited to watch this. Really, really excited to watch this.
Absolutely. And then we get into the rushing comparison between the two groups. All right. So both groups, it's more of a by committee approach. All right. Mm-hmm. Tyler Smith he was considered to be the bell cow for South Carolina State really early on in the season. Got a little bit banged up. Then you saw a little bit more KZ Adams. KZ Adams, he was on the team last year, so he got some experience. Josh Shaw has been more of the guy down the stretch in these games. These last 2 games that they had to have it against North Carolina Central and against Delaware State, Josh Shaw got those tough yards down the stretch, right? So Josh Shaw, big dude, really, really good size, very physical runner. Ryan Stubblefield, the backup quarterback, he gets on this list because this guy gets put in short yardage packages often. He scored a touchdown in the MEAC clincher against Delaware State in goal line, on a zone read. So he's another guy who's effective in running. So more by committee for South Carolina State. You go on the other side, you look at Chase Bingman. 5'9", 185. Don't let the short size fool you. This dude will bring the fire. Almost 1,000 yards on the season, 8 TDs, right? Lamaje McDowell is his second year in the program. He transferred in. Yeah, big dude, 6'2", 220, right? So you've got the sprint back in Chase Bingham, and you got the power back in Lamaje McDowell. Then you've also got Shadrick Byrd, who showed up yesterday. All right. Shadrick Byrd was a little bit of a late starter with the program this year, injuries a little bit, but yesterday he mixed it up a little bit. So they've got 3 guys that can carry the load. And then you see Cam Peters, you look at his body of work. Just look at his size, 6'4", 207 though, right? Get those tough yards. All right. So that's the running backs. Okay. Now we go here to the matchup between the South Carolina State receivers and that vaunted Prairie View secondary. All right. So you look at these guys, these dudes, you see these dudes all the time in the MEAC. Jordan Smith's been with that program the entire time, never transferred. Jalen Johnson, he transferred in from Grambling. You look at the rest of these, Nick Soul and Nigel Johnson, those are young dudes. But look at the size of these guys. Just talk about this receiving core, and then what stands out to you when you look at it as they match up against that secondary?
I mean, I like the mix that they have when you talk about guys who have been in the program for a while and some of the new guys too, right? I think that is a good mix to have because you need that veteran experience, that veteran presence, that leadership, right, in your wideout room. What stands out for me is some of these younger guys. What are they feeding these kids now? I mean, 6'5", 200, 6'6", 205. Like, I'm floored. So they'll obviously have a bit of a size advantage in that sense. I think that when you have guys that are deep and one of these one-on-one matchups, I mean, I want Nick Soul out there. That's who I kind of point to in terms of if you want a one-on-one size matchup with any of these guys in the Prairie View secondary. But I don't think that we can get, I mean, look at this, just look at the straight stats, right? Even without talking about intangibles on some of these guys in the secondary. I mean, Eric Zachary, 11 PBUs, 2 interceptions, and we have guys in the secondary getting sacks. I mean, that just kind of shows you how fast and athletic these guys in the secondary are, that you were able to make it from the third level of defense all the way up to the quarterback. I think that says a lot about the schemes that they're running. I think it says a lot about the talent of the guys that they have, and also the understanding that the secondary has of how their defense operates, because you can game plan to blitz and whatever all you want, but if you don't have guys that can execute, then obviously you have a problem. But these guys have obviously proven that they can.
Yeah, and Jordan Smith and Jalen Johnson, they're pretty much 1A, 1B in terms of just, getting it done for South Carolina State in that receiving core. Jordan Smith, I said, that guy, you look at him, 5'11", and then Jalen Johnson, 5'9". These dudes, they're tough covers because they're slippery. They just find a way to get open, right? But on the other side, Trevor Randall, man, that is a tremendous football player. He is an all-around dude. 89 tackles, 4 TFLs, a sack and 3 interceptions, and he's their leading tackler. And some people said that, well, how can your safety be a leading tackler? They must not. Well, until you saw yesterday. So, yeah, but shout out to these dudes, man. This is going to be a tremendous matchup. All right. Now, let's flip it over to the other side, because now you've got up top. I flipped it the other way. Now you got up top. You look at the secondary of South Carolina State. Now, what stands out, you look at right across from each other, Jared Washington, right? He's a returning starter. This dude, first team all MEAC. He got an American Bowl invite. This dude is a physical specimen. 20 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. Dude he gets locked on the guys. But look at that other guy on the other side, Josiah Rockwell, leading receiver in the SWAC, 68 catches, 1,084, 7 touchdowns, 6'2", 214, tough cover. Your thoughts on all this?
That's the matchup to watch, I think. 20 PBUs is insane, by the way. That's insane. But I think that is definitely going to be the matchup to watch when it comes to one-on-one matchups. Like that is the one that I'm circling 100%. I can't get over 20 PBUs. Who has 20 pass breakups? In any level of football, really. I haven't seen a whole lot of that. But I think that just speaks to the talent that they have, obviously, on the South Carolina State defense, especially in the secondary, and the rest of these guys too. I mean, 6'7", 230. Like what
yeah, he's their tight end. Yeah, tight end.
I mean, no, these are good. They're all pretty, for the most part, pretty evenly matched, just in terms of the physicality and honestly what they've put up on tape over the course of the season in the stat book. These are some very, very impressive numbers. The fact that they have 5 pass catchers with those numbers is dangerous. And seeing the way that their quarterback can play, this is a high-powered flying offense.
Yeah, like I said, Josiah Rockwell, man, try covering this dude. But hey, the other thing I like about their defense too, the secondary, Quantre Harry, I want to shout him out too. 3 sacks. This dude and him and Shamari Reed, these guys, they come on corner blitzes a lot.
Yeah.
Like, my South Carolina State people watching this, you know what I'm talking about. When you see Quantre Harry, they line him up on different sides. They disguise him. This dude will come on blitzes a lot, him and Reed. So yeah, this is a good matchup right here, man. I love this right here. This is football.
No, this is where you watch the talent and athleticism of guys really come into play. This is going to be I think this is going to be a really, really fun matchup to see when Prairie View is on offense. It's going to be cool.
Yeah. So now here we go. Now we got the offensive line of Prairie View against the D line and also a little bit of the linebackers. So Calvin McMillan, he's their leader. 6'5", 328, first team all SWAC. He's the veteran. He's been there, been through all the wars. Right. Pedro da Silva, look at the center, 6'1", 335, dudes from Brazil. Yeah, he's from Brazil doing his thing. They got size on that offensive line. And then you look on the other side, probably to me, their best overall defender, Mike Lunds, the transfer from Tulane. He's a graduate transfer, defensive end from Kentucky. He's got 9.5 sacks, 17.5 TFLs. And you look at just across the board with these dudes, lining up. So your thoughts on this one?
I mean, first of all, that is a big offensive line, like pretty solidly sized offensive line. I like that. I like that across the board here, across the defense too, that they really do get after the quarterback, and I think that that is going to be really important in this game. I mean, 9.5 sacks, that's a pretty solid number. I mean, there are guys in the NFL that don't have that many sacks this season.
Okay, yeah.
Malawi
James
also, like,
Madison transfer.
Okay. Good to know. And yeah. I'm kind of like taking it all in a little bit, kind of looking at it in this way, because I mean, it's going to be it's going to be like bully football. You know what I mean? Line of scrimmage, it's going to be bully football, 100%, like old school ground and pound bully football, which I really, really love. So I think that, maybe size advantage wise will go right away just from straight stats, looking at go to Prairie View, but that doesn't mean that South Carolina State isn't going to. I mean, the guy that's a 5'9" DN has 4 sacks in the season. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think that there's a lot. What you make for what you lack in height might make up for in heart. You know what I mean, or whatever the saying is. So I think that this is another matchup that's good. This is going to be a really great game. Just looking at the tail of the tape to begin with, and looking at the straight stats and just like not looking at intangibles, but just numbers. Yeah, I think that the size advantage here might win out.
Yeah, and then we go to the other side and we flip it. And there's the aforementioned Roger Smith, who is the one returning starter that South Carolina State had on offense. He was the MEAC Lineman of the Year. You look at him, 6'4", 330. And then you look on the other side, Big Al Sparks, 6'3", 375 right there at the nose. And then I talked about Daryl Starling in the open, about the kind of game he had yesterday. Kennedy Parker, another dude. Malik Gutaki, that's another. I mean, these are some dudes on this screen. Talk about this one for us.
I mean, you look at what they've accomplished this season. I mean, 72 tackles, 76 like in the 70s for some of these linebackers, as well as, again, getting after the quarterback. It's obviously a group effort for this Prairie View defense when it comes to getting after the quarterback. So I'm impressed by that right away. In terms of South Carolina State's O-line, I mean, the fact that this group has been able to do what they've done when they only have one returning starter on offense is really, really impressive. That just means they have worked on communicating really well. They've worked on technique really well, and honestly, fundamentals really well. I think that's how you get good O-lines, to have 5 guys play as one. So this is going to be another really, really great matchup.
Yeah, and like I said, if you watched that game yesterday, that defense, those guys flew around. So, yeah, this is going to be a good one. All right, Melissa's keys to the game. Talk about it.
All right, my keys to the game, I think we already talked about it a little bit, but whoever wins the line of scrimmage, right? The battle in the trenches. We just showed you the straight physicality of how that game is, how this is going to play out. But I think whoever wins the line of scrimmage is going to definitely have a good advantage in the game. Run the ball. I think that we've talked a lot about passing, but obviously running the ball has bode well for both of these teams this season. When they have ran the ball well, they've won the game. Turnovers, we've talked about too. Just avoiding the turnovers when you're on offense, obviously, and then capitalizing on them later on. For the team that commits them. And then my last thing was defending the run, which obviously I think Prairie View has spoken on that issue, especially when they've played if you watched their game yesterday. But I think that stopping the run is going to be equally important for both defenses.
Yep, that's good. That's really good stuff. And so a little bit here for me. For me, my keys. I just really believe that, these guys, they need to really work Prairie View. They got to hit their marks. They've really got to, as I said last week, I talked about how they really needed to get to at least 200 yards rushing, right? Yesterday they did that. All right. Prairie View, they are 6-0 when they get to 200 yards rushing. Okay. So if they can hit those marks, that'll be really, really key for them. On the other side, for South Carolina State, they're also 6-0 when they throw for at least 300 yards. So, when they get that air attack going, they've really been really, really good. But the thing that I also got to say for South Carolina State, as when we go back to what we talked about in the beginnings, they got to be able to run the ball as well, because that finding that balance is going to be very, very key here for South Carolina State, because the way Prairie View's defense was yesterday, shutting down Jackson State's running attack, which had been just like hadn't been stopped all year. If they're making you one-dimensional, talking about Prairie View doing it to South Carolina State, it can potentially produce some problems, because if you can't run the ball and they're focused on pass rushing, and we talked about the stats about how many sacks have been given up, right? You see it right there, 33 sacks allowed by the South Carolina State offensive line, right? So when you get into those kind of things, right, if you're one-dimensional and you can't run it, it's going to make some problems for them. But on the other side for Prairie View, I think the thing too is you got to also remember South Carolina State was in this game last year. Mm-hmm. They went home with a very, very sour taste in their mouths from what happened in that experience. They were physically bullied on both sides of the line of scrimmage last year. They couldn't block Jeremiah Williams of Jackson State the entire day, right? Didn't matter. Remember, they played both quarterbacks they had last year. They played Eric Phoenix and they played Stubblefield. Didn't matter who was back there. They had no time to pass. They could not get anything going. And by the time they got something going, they got a little garbage time touchdown. So this is going to be really, really exciting. And I'm really, really looking forward to just the all the chess matches and all the challenges that goes with it, right? So bottom line here, where you going? Who you got if you want to make a pick tonight?
Look, this is a tough one because I like here's the thing. This is how I'm going to explain it. So South Carolina State, they've had a week off, right? And when you are playing in some of these post-game bowl games or matchups or whatever, you got to keep on going while you're hot. Like South Carolina State, they beat Del State at Del State. And obviously Del State kind of came in as a little bit of a favorite, I want to say, because they were riding high right now. Deshaun Jackson in his first year as head coach really turned that program around and they were hot. But South Carolina State upset them on their home field. And they've had a week off. They've had time to chill, whatever. But Prairie View, on the other hand, they're going to be going on their normal routine. You know what I mean? Their normal game week routine, because they just played yesterday and they'll be doing a normal game week this week. And the great Nick Saban has said before that sometimes in the games that he's lost when he was head coach of Alabama, it's because they had too much time in between. That being said, however, I do think that Chennis Berry has a great hold on his program and has disciplined his team very well. And because of how last year went, I think that they're out for a revenge, to have vengeance from last year. So I'm going to go with South Carolina State.
You want to put a score on it?
Ooh, don't put a score on it. I will go. I did not prepare a score, but let's go 35-28.
So you see this as being a little bit of a shootout.
Yeah, a little more high scoring, let's say. That'll make it fun for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I like this comment right here. He said, if you tell me coaches haven't looked at SCSU film before today, I have some land on the moon to say, yeah, definitely. They have.
For sure.
They have. And then Stan says, too much time off.
It's a thing for sure.
And that's what's really interesting here. I'll say, okay, so this is where I was missing. This is what I was missing. I had to re-upload this. Okay. Here were my key trends. Apologies to everybody. I did find it. Okay. Unbeaten when throwing for more than 200 yards. Okay. They're 7-0 now. 7-0. Yesterday they threw for over 200. That made it 7-0. Okay. They have not allowed but one 100-yard rusher, one 100-yard receiver, and they did not allow anybody to throw more than 300 yards. Okay. So that just bears itself in mind to bring that up. Also on the other side, like I said before, South Carolina State unbeaten when throwing for more than 300 yards, 6-0. They've only allowed one 300-yard passer. That was way back in the third game of the season against Bethune-Cookman with Cam Ransom, right? And he threw for 302. And a lot of that was garbage time yards in the fourth quarter because it was 41-13 entering the fourth quarter. See, I got all this stuff, man. I've been through this stuff 1,000 times. They ain't got to look it up. Then you look at here, they've got, this is key too. They got to take care of that football. They've had at least one turnover in 10 of the 12 games that they played. Okay. And then here were Melissa's keys to the game. This is what she said. Winning the line of scrimmage. Yeah, you can say it again. You go over it again if you want to.
Winning line of scrimmage, important, as we just mentioned. Running the ball for both teams appropriately enough, limiting turnovers, as we just mentioned, and stopping the run. Because, listen, like we mentioned, we want it to be balanced, right, on offense between passing the ball and running the ball. I think for me, always it starts with running the ball. And if you can stop the run, then you've taken away one dimension of what the offense can do.
Right. And then these were my keys. I said, hit your offensive marks, 200 plus yards rushing, 200 plus yards passing, that 200 plus yards rushing, whatever the formula is, if these guys can get over 400 yards of total offense, man, that's going to be really, really good for Prairie View. Limit the explosive plays. Really, you could say that for both sides, but really especially for Prairie View, because South Carolina State, they can make a living by hitting you over the top deep. They'll catch you sleeping and they'll find a one-on-one matchup, anywhere on that field, right? And then control the time possession. They did it yesterday to the tune of 17-minute advantage. When you do that, you can do a lot of good things. The other side, establish a run game to set up the pass. But two, you got to get after Cam Peters. You got to get after this dude. Number one, when he's back there to pass, that good pass rush that you guys have, you got to get after him. You got to force him to evade the pocket, make it tough on him. If you can't get sacks, get some quarterback pressures. The other side is you can't allow Cam Peters to bully you in the run game like he did yesterday against, Jackson State. Now, it was more of a collective effort. He had 24 carries for 100 yards, but still, if this dude's getting 100 yards rushing,
done.
It's over with.
Mm-hmm.
You can call it. And then the other side, you got to take care of that football. Like I said on the trends, man, if you don't turn that ball over, man, that equals a lot of success. And then you made your game pick, and that was it. There we go. So, I want to just finish by saying my pick will come down in Atlanta on Radio Row when I do my show from Radio Row on Friday. I have an idea of where I'm going, but I'm going to take a few looks at a few more things. It said South Carolina State should win, but Lawrence, what's the but part, Lawrence? Put it in the comments. SWAC coaches directly have told me they start looking at the MEAC and preparing for the week of their last game for the Celebration Bowl matchup. Yeah, as they should. Yeah, definitely.
That's good coaching.
If South Carolina State gets over 200 yards rushing, they won the game. You dead gum right, because that definitely goes against the trends of what their stats have been the entire game. And yes, Cam is a problem, and you 100%. Better not allow him to be a problem, because if he is, Lawrence said, but JSU should have won. Well, hey, coulda, woulda, shoulda at this point, man. All right, so what I want to finish with tonight here, Melissa, I want to finish with what I usually do every single week. I got my ride tokens. I've got this week, and then I got one more ride tokens coming for you in week 16 next week. Yesterday was all Prairie View. So you got Cam Peters. Like I said, South Carolina State fans, if these numbers are repeated this week,
be tough.
Also, Josiah Rockwell, 4 catches. He only had 4 catches, but he had 96 yards. All right. He's a 1,000+ yard receiver this year. Kennedy Parker and Darryl Starling Jr. These dudes are flying around yesterday. You look at Starling Jr.'s stat
I was
line.
going to say, those are stats. Wow.
In one game, 8 tackles, 1 TFL, half a sack, and an interception. For a lot of players, that's a season.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
that's what you got there. And then next week, going right down there in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you've got South Carolina State against Prairie. So love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So did you have a good time tonight on the ride, Melissa?
I did. That was cool. It's really neat to see everything kind of put together. You did a really great job with all the slides.
Yeah, and this is what we do. So, so what I'd like to do is when I have fans, certain folks come on and they come from different ways. How can folks follow you?
Oh, I'm Melissa Y. Kim on all social media platforms. I cover Howard and the MEAC, but I also cover the Commanders, and also I used to cover the Ravens, so I'm in the NFL space a lot too. As well as most of the happenings, most of the sports happenings in DC. So yes.
Awesome. And she covers Howard football. She's an analyst for Howard football. And as you can see how well spoken she was. Like I said, I would listen to those Howard games. I would watch them on HBC or ESPN Plus, and I'd say, who is that doing the analysis?
Stop. I appreciate that.
I was like, who is that doing the analysis? I was like, very well spoken. And then I said, okay. I said, I want to try to get her on the show. So I'm definitely going to get you on the show here. We're going to do some things during the off season, but for sure during the season next year, we'll do this again.
Yes, for sure.
You can join either a Wednesday or a Sunday. It doesn't matter. But this hour of time that we spent talking, this was cool. So I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate it so much. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. So I will see you soon.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
Right. You got it. That's Melissa Kim, everybody. And that leads me into my final word of tonight. My final word for tonight is a lot of things that have been said about the game that took place. In fact, let me just switch it right here. Switch it right here. There we go. We got it right there. We got it. Here's my final word. A lot of things were said about the game that was played yesterday there in Jackson. And we know that it was said, a lot of jokes have gone around and said that people were going to be canceling their hotel rooms and all that stuff. Listen, Celebration Bowl is entering its 10th edition, and it is designed to be a celebration of not just HBCU football, but it's a celebration for Black excellence. And also not just Black excellence, it's also for minority excellence. And so if you are in the Atlanta area, if you're close to Atlanta, or you're like me, who's making a trip down on a flight heading from here in Ohio, coming down to see the game and also cover the game, just come on out, man. I mean, even if you bought tickets, if you expected Jackson State to be there and you're a Jackson State fan and an alum, still show up, man. Just support the thing. I get it. You're disappointed that your team might not have won. And I'm not just talking about Jackson State. I'm talking about every fan base. Maybe you're disappointed that your team didn't win or didn't make it. But guess what? It's still an opportunity to go because there are several dignitaries and several alums from different HBCUs that are around. It can be used as a good networking opportunity. Sometimes you can run into the very same people that you've been beefing with on Facebook for 6 months, and you can come together and then you guys can take a picture together. Say, hey, man, it's all good, man. I ain't mean to call you delusional 28 times, man. It's all good. We family, whatever. But the point of the matter here is that it's a celebration in its 10th edition, and we'd rather not see you miss out. So that is all. I appreciate everybody once again for taking this time out to join me tonight. The next time you will see me, I will be down on Friday at Radio Row. I'll be interviewing, obviously, the head coaches for both teams, players from both teams, and you'll see different people that'll come in and out. You never know who will hit across this screen. But I just like to say to everybody, thank you for everything you always do. Make sure you like the stream. And also, if you have not watched me before, make sure you subscribe because we're continuing this movement. One more week, y'all, and then we'll be able to call it a season. So I'm Wild Wayne Cartwright. I will see you again Friday from Atlanta. God bless.
Thank you for joining us on the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright. As you exit the ride, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the like button, and catch up on all of our prior episodes. Until next time, God bless.